Disclaimer before I say anything. I know some people are criticizing this movie, saying it's propaganda or feminist brainwashing. If you've clicked on this video looking for someone to scream about pizza parlors or atrazine turning frogs gay, then you've clicked the wrong video. I'll briefly talk about politics or even throw in an opinion or two, but I think structurally Barbie doesn't work, all politics aside. You know what? Here's a little countdown clock, counting down the seconds until I make some outlandish political opinion. Just so you know. Prepare yourself, mentally for that. Barbie is an advertisement, and that's not inherently a bad thing. A lot of studios need merchandise sales just to break even, and I get that. The Lego Movie is one of my favorite movies, and it just serves as a giant Lego advertisement. However, I think there are a few huge key differences between Barbie and the Lego Movie that make a big difference. The characterization in this film is nearly non-existent. When handling a world with several different versions of Barbie or Ken, it's kind of important to treat each one as a different character so they don't feel like extras filling up a scene. When building characters, you want to be able to tell more about them than what's being said. Body language, dialect, general moods, and emotions. These characters are treated similarly to Smurfs in a way. Each one is given one trait, and then that's all the characterization they get. This one is the president. This one is pregnant. What can you tell me about this Barbie? Or this Barbie? Or this one? Nothing. They're big enough leads to get their own promotional posters, but not enough to have their own form of characterization. There's no visual distinction between Barbies as it relates to their personalities. Ken is even less defined. What's unique about this Ken? Or this one? Or this one? Absolutely nothing. The same treatment is given to Gloria and Sasha. Who are Gloria and Sasha? I'm sure that's the question most of you are thinking right now. Depressed mom and angry daughter. These two leads aren't characters. Angry daughter is just there to fill the scene. She really serves no purpose in the story in any lasting way. The film starts by suggesting that Barbies and their owners are sort of linked. That's what drives the whole plot. The leaving the Shire moment, if you will, is sort of exploring that relationship between Barbie and owner. But this plotline goes nowhere. Can you imagine if Lord of the Rings did that? Frodo and Sam go on a quest to destroy the ring by throwing it into Mount Doom. Along the way, Sam becomes a dictator, so now he can completely forget about the ring because Sam is a fascist. The Barbie-owner relationship was a really interesting concept and one that should have been seen to the end instead of being forgotten in exchange for the less interesting Ken gets really into patriarchism and horses. There were several little plot threads like this that were just seemingly forgotten. Will Ferrell's pointless character made some comment about how, oh, the last time a Barbie entered the real world was 10 years ago. But this little bit of information goes nowhere. Why have lines like that if they're not going to go anywhere? Barbie is marketed primarily as a comedy. How did the jokes stand up? Not well. I'd be generous in saying that 30% of the jokes landed. I chuckled a little bit and had a pretty fun time. The other 70% of jokes fit into either reference or self-aware comedy. All of the reference comedy just sort of felt like that Seth MacFarlane Family Guy sort of joke. Hey, do you remember this weird and obscure thing? I bet you didn't think you'd be thinking about that right now. Even worse is the self-aware humor. It was distracting at best and frustrating at worst. This is a review. You're watching a YouTube video right now. This is a review from a cynical asshole. Look, I'm self-aware. Isn't that hilarious? No, stop it. Pacing can either make or break a film. The first act was action-packed and so quick that you would miss something if you blinked. This is polarizingly different from the third act where the pacing slows to a crawl with generic shot, reverse shot conversations with static dialogue and uninteresting visuals. This was a perfect time to get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, refill your popcorn, go on a hike, call your grandparents, and you could still come back to the same scene still trudging along. Just like everything else, world building was also polarizingly different from start to end of the film. The beginning was cute, it really feels like someone is playing with these toys. Invisible food and drink, non-running showers. All of this works in the context of them being toys. But then Barbie brings two humans into Barbie Land and nothing is different for them, blurring the line between human and Barbie. There seriously wasn't anything more interesting than having these two humans being palette swapped for Barbie characters? I always like bringing up Zootopia when I'm talking about world building. Zootopia has a ton of problems and flaws, but look at their world. Doors, transportations, restaurants. Zootopia as a city is characterized. If you change the animals to humans, the film no longer works in the context of Zootopia as a city. It is intentionally designed for animals and has different rules in place to make sure the atmosphere feels lived in and real. Barbie felt like a fun, lived-in world with rules and a purpose in the first act, but once the third act rolls around, mom and daughter's existence completely ruins the rules of the world. They enter an unknown world, but are treated as if they've always been there. Every message is just muddied and half-assed. The closing message of, "I created Barbie not to have an ending," gets infinitely funnier if you go in with the knowledge that Barbie was originally a European sex toy. Now, let's talk about the themes. It's very clear that this was meant to be a film that attempts to tackle gender problems and start a conversation about equality. And I think that this is a really good and important message. I also think that Barbie was too scared to pick a side, and its muddied centrist message didn't really accomplish what I assume the original intention was. It's really trying to have a political voice, and I think it's important to show light on these issues. But I think it faces the same problems that The Falcon and the Winter Soldier faced. They're too scared to commit to one side of the argument. As a result, any call to action that is attempted to be told falls apart. Everything it's attempting to say is extremist and hypocritical. The Barbie world is a metaphor for the real world. Barbie Land is a world made by women for women, and the men are shunned out and pushed aside. The men attempt to flip the status quo, but end up realizing that women being in charge was the right thing all along. It's just a social commentary gender swapped for the real world. Our world is made by men for men, and only in the past 50 years have women's rights really been brought to the forefront, challenging the status quo. However, the message of Barbie suggests that women will realize it's too much work and that men should just continue doing it anyway. I don't agree with that. I think that's a really weird message to have in your Barbie movie. This is just how I interpreted it, anyway. If you thought differently, please comment and let me know. It feels like a call to action film about gender issues and then executes it with a fighting fire with fire mindset. The campfire guitar scene being an example of that. In order to regain control over Barbie Land, they plan out a weird, cheating, heartbreak sort of manipulation plan. It just feels very hypocritical and scummy. This goes even deeper when you add Alan into the picture. For a movie that preaches not to overlook anyone and that everyone has value, they sure treat Alan like shit and completely go against the message. Alan is constantly being treated as lesser than Barbie or Ken just because he himself is neither a Barbie or a Ken. It's all very strange and played off for laughs, but it's still very hypocritical to the overall message. I know Barbie wasn't meant for me. I'm not an American woman and really have no idea what that would be like. I have 3 brothers and went to an all-boys high school. If people are happy with this movie because it shows bonds between mothers and daughters, I don't want to take that away. I know it's a beautiful thing. Anyway, that's just what I thought of Barbie. Let's discuss this in the comments. I really want to know if I interpreted anything wrong or missed anything. Let's just keep it civil. Thanks for watching. Like, sub, do whatever you want. Thanks for watching.